Tonight, Canada Post employees say they plan to strike by the end of the week. Threatening to walk off the job for the second time in 6 months. What it could mean for you and the Postal Service's already troubled finances. The U.S. president says Russia and Ukraine will start ceasefire talks immediately after a call with Vladimir Putin.
I did say it's time, you got to stop this thing, and I believe he wants to stop.
But do Russia and Ukraine see it the same way? Crushing defeat in Toronto.
It's just brutal.
And high hopes in Edmonton.
So we're going to go all the way. Believe.
Can the Oilers end Canada's Stanley Cup drought?
From CBC News, this is The National with Asha Tomlinson.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is away. Mail delivery could soon be grinding to a halt again. Tonight, Canada Post says the union, representing tens of thousands of its workers, is ready to strike within days. The moment the current negotiating deadline passes, at the stroke of midnight Friday, the union says it will go back to the picket lines after being ordered back to work last December. That last work stoppage lasted 32 days and left millions of letters and parcels in limbo. As Georgie Smythe shows us, the government may have ended the last strike, but the gap between the two sides that triggered it remains just as wide as it was 6 months ago.
Canada's Postal Service is once again on the verge of shutting down. Cup W, the union speaking for 55,000 Canada Post workers, says members are ready to walk off the job Friday morning.
We certainly didn't want to be in this place.
This strike would be the second in 6 months, an extension of a job action that started just before the busy Christmas season last year on issues like wage increases, pensions and medical leave. They were ordered back to work after 32 days. Now the extended collective agreements expire in just 3 days.
Unfortunately, Canada Post walked away from the table again last week. I think that's about the third time through this process that they've walked away from the table. And they also indicated that they may change our working conditions.
Canada Post is facing a large financial shortfall, more than $800 million in 2023. Last week, a report recommended changes to save money, like phasing out daily door-to-door letter mail delivery and hiring part-time employees.
It points out that Canada Post is facing an existential crisis, that the financial situation needs to be addressed, and we need to be making a number of changes, starting with negotiating agreements that reflect the realities of 2025.
The union rejected most of the recommendations and says it wants to continue to negotiate. Both sides are at an impasse.
When you intervene, you really don't solve the underlying problems, they just continue to fester.
But acting on the report's recommendations could mean big disruptions too.
Restructuring means making Canada Post much, much smaller. This means layoffs of thousands and thousands of workers.
Both sides say they still hope to return to the bargaining table, but if no agreement is reached, operations like mail and parcel delivery would stop by the end of the week. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
We're learning more tonight about the family torn apart by a devastating crash in Toronto when they were hit by a driver police say was impaired. Thomas Digg with what we know now about the victims.
A small tribute to a family left grieving. This busy Toronto roadway still bears the scars of a brutal crash that killed 3 siblings and left the city in shock.
Comes of incidences like crashes that cause fatalities and injuries is almost immeasurable. You know, their worlds are turned upside down and there's no going back.
The high-speed crash at about 12:30 Sunday morning, leaving behind the mangled wreckage of 2 minivans. Police blame a driver who they say had been drinking and slammed his vehicle into the family's van stopped at a red light.
We as a criminal police service, we educate the public of the danger of drinking and driving, and this is a result: a family is torn apart.
Officers took away a 19-year-old suspect in handcuffs and laid a dozen charges, including impaired and dangerous driving offenses.
You know, I hope it makes people stop and think about their own choices.
The crash also sending to hospital the children's 10-year-old brother, their mother, and a family friend. All of it leaving even the most seasoned first responders overcome with emotion.
Speaking to the senior officers that have well over 30 years on the job, this is one of the more difficult ones we've attended.
The suspected drunk driver, Ethan Lahoulier, has made one appearance in court already and is expected to be back in the days ahead. A family member of the accused tells us what happened was a horrible tragedy. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
As National Transportation Safety Board investigators examine what caused a Mexican Navy tall ship to strike the Brooklyn Bridge, they confirm the bridge itself was spared major damage.
They have affirmed at this point that there is no significant structural damage to the load-bearing elements of the bridge.
The ship's mast snapped when they hit the bridge Saturday, killing 2 people on board and injuring several others. The NTSB said it's still waiting on permission to board the ship and interview the captain. After a marathon diplomatic call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump now says Kiev and Moscow will begin ceasefire negotiations immediately, that Putin wants peace. But as Katie Simpson shows us, the signals from Moscow tell a different story.
Ukrainian firefighters rush to save what they can. A weekend of relentless strikes, homes and lives destroyed after Russia launched its largest drone attack yet, ahead of high-stakes talks with the U.S. president.
We just spent 2.5 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and I think some progress has been made.
On social media, Trump announced Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire, with conditions to be negotiated between the two parties. He said the tone and spirit of the conversation were excellent, and that the Vatican would be very interested in hosting the negotiations. Ukraine's president spoke separately with Trump, later telling reporters he's ready for a ceasefire and open to peace talks. We are considering a meeting of all teams, Volodymyr Zelensky said. America, Ukraine, Russia, European countries, and Great Britain. But the Russian president's tone was far more subdued. The contacts have resumed, which suggests we are generally on the right track, said Vladimir Putin, saying he's ready to work with Ukraine. He adds the root causes of the war must be eliminated. The phrase root causes alarming experts.
They're basically saying Ukraine is a failed state. It should become a satellite state of Russia. And for that to happen, we need to take control.
Past attempts at peace have been hampered by Russian aggression and Kremlin demands for concessions deemed unacceptable by Ukraine. Trump is trying to be optimistic in this moment.
That's what I do. My whole life is like deals, one big deal. And if I thought that President Putin did not want to get this over with, I wouldn't even be talking about it because I'd just pull out.
But he seems to be distancing himself from the peace process.
This is not my war. This is not the war. I mean, we got ourselves entangled in something that we shouldn't have been involved in.
It's a far cry from what he promised during the election.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours.
Trump says he's open to resuming trade with Russia once the bloodshed is over, describing it as a tremendous opportunity. The Kremlin says it would welcome a normalization of the relationship. It's a pledge from the U.S. despite the fact Russia started this unprovoked war.
And Katie, there are more questions about what the U.S. is promising Ukraine in this moment.
It's unclear if the U.S. plans to continue with intelligence and military support for Ukraine. Trump complained at length about how much money the U.S. has spent.
Thanks, Katie. Katie Simpson in Washington. Donald Trump was also asked about Joe Biden's news this weekend that he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer, which has already spread to his bones. He called into question the timing.
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. I just had my physical.
He suggested, without evidence, that Biden's doctors or someone else wasn't being honest with the public about his health, again raising allegations that Biden was not cognitively fit. Biden's office said he was only diagnosed last Friday. Joe Biden himself is thanking all those who are lifting him up in this difficult moment. It's one many Canadian men have experienced firsthand. Vanessa Lee takes a closer look at how prostate cancer is detected and the symptoms to watch for.
In Joe Biden's first public message since being diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, the former president thanked his supporters, saying, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places." Globally, prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed malignancy in men after skin cancers. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, about 1 in 8 Canadian men will develop it, and 1 in 30 will die from it.
Prostate cancer can either cause local symptoms where the prostate is, it sits just below the bladder, and so it can block flow of urine so that men have a weak stream and difficulties emptying their bladder. Some men over the age of 50 will often have these symptoms that are unrelated to prostate cancer, just that the prostate grows. Nonetheless, it's always worthwhile checking those out.
Doctors say prostate cancer can often be detected early with a blood test that is known as a PSA. Biden's last annual physical as president was in February of 2024. At the time, his doctors said there were no new concerns.
I would be interested to know what his PSA was the last time it was checked. It's sort of hard for me to believe that if he's had a PSA within the past year that was normal. Usually prostate cancer doesn't go full throttle like this.
The 82-year-old's diagnosis has prompted an outpouring of support. Prime Minister Mark Carney posted, "You've always had a deep commitment to family and faith, and I'm hopeful that both will carry you through this." Doctors say the fact Biden's cancer has spread to his bones means it is no longer curable. But there are treatments that can possibly control it for years, including hormone therapy to slow the growth of cancer cells. Vanessa Lee, CBC News, Montreal.
The U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for the Trump administration to revoke temporary status for some Venezuelan migrants that protected them from deportation. The brief ruling will allow the Trump administration to detain and remove some 350,000 Venezuelans amid an effort to rapidly ramp up deportations. This follows a White House announcement that protection for some 9,000 Afghans who fled persecution under the Taliban regime will expire tomorrow. And it follows last week's fast-track acceptance of a group of white South Africans as refugees into the U.S. Aid is once again trickling back into Gaza tonight as residents of Khan Yunis, the second largest city, are being told to get out. Briar Stewart now on the attack Israel warns is coming, and a warning some images may be difficult to watch.
Along the roads leading out of the city of Khan Yunis, a desperate exodus. Families carrying and dragging whatever they can. Israel's military told them to leave in one of the largest evacuation orders in months as it prepares to launch what it calls an unprecedented attack against Hamas. But these families say they're the ones trapped in an inescapable war. We don't want anything, just open the border. Take Gaza. Just get us out of this country, says Shireen Zakam. Israel vows it will take control of all of Gaza. It also says it's lifting its 2.5-month blockade on aid. Israel's prime minister says he's only doing that because of mounting political pressure. We can't allow a state of starvation from both a practical and diplomatic standpoint, he said. Benjamin Netanyahu said only a basic amount of food would be let in. And in a statement, the leaders of Canada, the UK, and France called that wholly inadequate. We call on the Israeli government to stop its military operations in Gaza and immediately allow humanitarian aid to enter. The World Health Organization says Gazans are starving. The most extreme cases are among the most fragile. Maya El Arja is nearly 2 years old and weighs just 6.5 kilograms. Her mother told a videographer working for CBC News that she suffers from malnutrition and diarrhea. Her life was normal. She used to walk, play, laugh, she said. Now all she does is sleep. Aid groups have been warning for weeks that Gaza is on the brink of famine. Already tens of thousands have been killed in 1.5 years of fighting. As Israel pushes in to try and defeat Hamas, all Gazans remain caught up in an intensifying war. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Wildfires are forcing more than 800 people from a northwestern Ontario First Nation from their homes. Wabaseeming Independent Nations is not far from the Manitoba border, where an out-of-control wildfire is growing. It's more than 100,000 hectares, about twice the size of Winnipeg. Some 40 firefighters from Alberta arrived today to help. The destruction from wildfires can be long-lasting, and for some BC condo owners, it's led to a frustrating standoff. Their homes burned down nearly 2 years ago. They want to rebuild, but can't because of an issue with utilities. Brady Strachan explains.
Right over there in the corner, that back corner, was my place.
This lot of broken concrete and twisted metal is all that's left of Maria Hart's home.
When I came to look at it after and saw the melted cars, that was incredible, like a war zone.
Hart owned a condo in an apartment building on a private resort near Kelowna. Built in the 1970s, Lake Okanagan Resort was a symbol of luxury at the time. But in 2023, most of the buildings, including her home, burned to the ground. Hart and her neighbors want to rebuild, but they can't get building permits until utilities like water and sewer are restored, something the resort had been supplying in the past.
This was our home. It wasn't an investment property. It wasn't a rental. It was what we had planned on retiring in.
CBC News has repeatedly emailed and phoned owners and managers at Lake Okanagan Resort. They have not responded to our questions. With few answers from the resort, these condo owners want the province to step in and force the company to hook up utilities.
That leaves residents like us extremely vulnerable, and there's no repercussions for the utility owner, and they can literally walk away, leaving us basically stranded.
They say the resort has stopped responding to their questions, and despite pleas to the provincial government, nothing substantive has been done yet.
Every level of government has failed us up until this point.
The province says it can't force the resort to restore utilities or transfer them to the condo owners.
This is really the first one in British Columbia that's this extreme. This is the one that's as complicated.
He says it could take years for this issue to be resolved, and it may end up in the courts. Meanwhile, condo owners like Hart are still paying mortgages and other expenses related to their properties.
Friends and family ask me, well, what are your plans? I don't know.
Brady Strachan, CBC News, near West Kelowna.
There is now just one Canadian team left in the fight for the Stanley Cup.
Everything's going to be all Edmonton now.
Oilers fans are ready for outsiders to jump on the bandwagon next. Donald Trump is pushing to make more in America again.
And if so, how much more is it going to cost you?
Andrew Chang breaks down why some say that's unlikely. And N is for Netflix, a new home for the Sesame Street gang. We're back in 2.
Whoa. Num, 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 num.
Sesame Street has found a new home on Netflix. The streaming service says it will start airing new episodes later this year, on the same day as they also air on PBS. The staple kids show had been searching for a new partner for months, ever since Warner Brothers Discovery announced it was not renewing its deal. The Edmonton Oilers are set to face old rivals this week as Canada's last hope to bring home the Stanley Cup. The Oilers won 8 of their last 9 games, shaking off injuries and emerging as a real contender. Now they're set to face off against the Dallas Stars, a team they'll have to beat to win the Western Conference and stay in the hunt. Paige Parsons shows us who's rooting for Canada's team.
Has won the game and the series! Edmonton Oilers fans say this is the year the team can take the cup.
You watch, we're going to go all the way.
We want the cup! As this year's playoff run heats up, Oilers diehards are once again welcoming fans of other Canadian teams to hop on the Edmonton bandwagon.
All Toronto fans are all going to be Oilers fans now, so including all Winnipeg and Vancouver's, everything's going to be all Edmonton now.
We have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. I think this fan base reaches far more than the city of Edmonton.
The Oilers are the last Canadian team standing in the playoffs, facing off against the Dallas Stars starting Wednesday, knowing some fans are shifting allegiances to back them.
Obviously, there's going to be some Flames fans or Toronto fans that probably aren't cheering for us.
The pressure is on now. Winnipeg Jets fans' hopes were dashed on the weekend. The Toronto Maple Leafs are out too, and some of their fans are fed up.
There was more jerseys on the ice in the last 10 minutes that I saw jerseys in the stands.
Like every year, it's the same song and dance. It's just brutal.
Even Canadian skaters playing against Toronto say they don't envy the pressure Leafs players were under.
It's got to be tough on those guys to walk to the rink every day and not feel that, because you see the way the fans treat them at the end. Like, how do you not feel that every single day?
And so it's all on Edmonton, facing a more formidable version of Dallas than last year.
They traded for Mikko Rantanen. He's one of the best players in the NHL, so they have the star power that maybe they were missing a little bit last year.
But this sports writer adds that the Oilers are now more experienced too, that they have the depth and the talent to win.
I think the general hockey fan in Canada will be cheering on the Edmonton Oilers. They want a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. They want to bring it back to Canada.
They meet the Stars on Wednesday in Dallas. Paige Parsons, CBC News, Edmonton.
As measles outbreaks grow in parts of Canada, an appeal for parents to get their kids vaccinated.
That injection could save your child's life.
The concern patients here could face life-threatening complications. Next. Donald Trump is pushing to bring manufacturing back to America.
And that's where Trump's plan crashes into this wall of reality.
What that could mean for the prices you pay. And why it's not a matter of if, but when Mount St. Helens erupts again.
Here's why the next eruption won't look like 1980.
The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping our world. Next. Measles continues to spread in Canada at a rate not seen in decades. Since measles was eliminated back in 1998, an average year saw around 90 reported cases. This year, there's been more than 2,100. That vast majority so far from outbreaks in Ontario and Alberta. Most of the patients, kids and infants. And as Jennifer Yoon shows us, even if they fight measles off, a fatal threat can still linger.
A happy, healthy child suddenly gone at the age of 10, killed by a measles infection.
The fact that it was measles, I just couldn't get my head around it.
Little Renee was infected as a baby, too young to get the jab, but unable to avoid being exposed during an outbreak in Manchester, UK. She seemed to recover, but the virus stayed dormant in her brain for years. When it woke up, it caused seizures before robbing Renee of the ability to talk, eat, then stay conscious.
They told me that it was going to be fatal and she'd have no brain activity.
The disease is called subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, or SSPE. It happens to 1 to 2 people out of 10,000 overall measles cases, though the risk level rises to 1 in over 600 if an infant gets measles before they're 15 months old.
There's really not much that you can do.
This doctor has treated it in a developing country.
We wouldn't normally think about it in our setting, a developed world setting where measles had been eradicated.
But now she worries someone might die of measles complications like SSPE in Canada, as the worst outbreak in almost 3 decades rips through unvaccinated children in Ontario. The province has been trying to encourage people to get immunized, yet cases this year continue to multiply faster, mainly in rural farming communities with religious objections to vaccination.
These beliefs are deeply embedded. When you have pockets of unvaccinated people, it will spread in those communities.
Rebecca's sadness is tinged with rage. She says her child would be alive if others were immunized against measles. Now she wants others to understand the stakes.
That injection could save your child's life, like it could have with my child.
Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. 45 years after the deadliest volcanic eruption in U.S. history, scientists say Mount St. Helens will blow again this century.
You can kind of even track how that magma is moving up through the throat in more detail than was possible in 1980.
Why this time we'll be better prepared. But first, Donald Trump wants to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. What would it take to turn that rhetoric into reality?
In short, it's going to take billions and billions, if not tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars.
Andrew Chang, host of About That, looks at one industry where experts say that is going to be a real challenge.
When Donald Trump makes a trade enemy of China, arguing the U.S. buys way too much from them.
Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right.
You have to consider how much of that is Americans buying clothing made in China. Estimates are about 30 to 40%. But this wasn't always the case.
Apparel used to be produced in factories in Canada or in the United States. Much of that was then offshored, especially when China joined the World Economic Council. You know, they became part of that supply chain.
And that meant pretty quickly the U.S. got cut out. Just take a look at how many fewer Americans have jobs making clothes today compared to 30 years ago. The Trump administration's goal, of course, is to bring that golden age of American manufacturing back and to put that money back into the pockets of Americans.
If we do not protect our nation's manufacturers, we lose a fundamental part of who we are as a people.
And it is a popular idea. Americans, by and large, would rather buy stuff that's made at home. One survey showed 82% of people said they would buy more made-in-America products if they were sold more widely. But, of course, to use clothing as an example once again, there's a reason the U.S. now imports a majority of what Americans wear from Asia.
The price of clothing has gone down dramatically, and that was primarily due to the offshoring of production.
Yeah, it's just cheaper. Consider this. Say you bought a big old box of anything in 1970, and it cost you $75. Doesn't really matter what you bought, because if we take average US inflation into account, buying that same box of whatever would cost you more than $600 in today's dollars. So unfair, right? But now, let's say we're talking about a 1970s coat. Same price, but 50 years later, inflation in the apparel industry is tiny compared to how much more expensive everything else has gotten. That same coat in today's dollars will cost you around $167 today.
That essentially speaks to China's overall price suppression effect by being able to provide to us low-cost apparel at a mass quantity.
So we wanted to know, can the U.S. bring something like apparel manufacturing back to America without forcing every American to break the bank? Let's go through it. So let's talk about shoes. How much it costs to make a pair and how much you can reasonably sell that pair for. What will the market bear? And we'll use a pair of Nikes made in Asia as an example. Retail price, $100. A few years ago, the head of Nike's footwear sourcing program said, on average, on that $100 pair of shoes, figure 25 of those dollars is the cost of actually making the shoe in the factory. Which makes it sound like Nike's making $75 profit on every pair of $100 shoes, which is insane, but of course, we're not done. That $25 production cost is really just the Asian factory. The material, the labor, all of it. But that's a long way from the shoe being on your foot, right? You gotta send those things across a whole ocean. Shipping and insurance, add another $1 onto the total cost. And US duties, which was pre-tariffs, about $2.50. So now we're up to around $28.50 to bring those Asian-made shoes into the United States. But then Nike has to tell people that it's got some cool new shoes, right? There's marketing, paying for operations here in North America, labor, so on and so forth. And that's a big expense. Another $15 on this particular pair of shoes. There's also taxes, because of course there's taxes. And we're now basically at just over $45. But you're still not wearing the shoes, because it's not like Nike makes most of its money selling direct to consumer. It sells mainly through stores like Foot Locker or Sports Experts, and they're gonna want their cut as well. According to Nike, a retail store might pay them around $50 for the shoes, and this is where Nike takes the money and exits the transaction, pocketing a relatively small profit of $4.50. But now, this shoe is the retailer's problem. They've got to recoup the $50 they just paid Nike and all of their other operating costs too. So that's why they're setting the price to you, the customer, at $100. But here's the kicker. According to Foot Locker's financial statements, they don't tend to sell $100 shoes for $100. They might sell that pair for closer to $60 because of all the discounts that they have to offer to actually move product before the end of the season.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that bombs. It hits the shelf, it doesn't sell, so now it has to go on sale.
When retailers, they set up the initial price, they will already factor in how much discount they plan to offer in the future.
So all of a sudden, you've sold a $50 shoe for $60 for a measly $10 margin, and that's got to pay for your own marketing, your employees, overhead costs, and ideally, you make some kind of profit. Otherwise, why did you bother buying and selling the shoe in the first place?
Apparel is generally low margin. There just isn't a lot of wiggle room at all.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what the market will bear. This is the low cost and the equilibrium that this one slice of the apparel industry has reached. So now let's ask Trump's question. Can all of that start and finish in America? And if so, how much more is it going to cost you? If we look at apparel manufacturing today, there are a couple of big things that China has that the US doesn't. The first is cheap labor.
If there's something very complicated, like a ski jacket that has many complicated steps, that is so labor intensive that at times it's just not possible in the US to produce such a thing and be affordable at the retail level.
Yeah, because American workers are just paid more. And that's true not just in clothing, but across all manufacturing. As of mid-2024, the average manufacturing worker in the United States earned close to $30 an hour. Compare that to under $7 an hour in China. Some of that we can attribute to much harsher and, by Western standards, unethical labor practices. But China also has a much bigger population and a massive pool of workers ready and willing to do this kind of work for $7 an hour, which, we should say, does go further than $7 would here in Canada or the United States.
On average, the cost of living in China is similar to the labor discount, anywhere from a quarter up to half of what it costs to live here in the United States.
It's a huge population, especially the industry has been going further and further into the backcountry of China, where there are millions of people who, they work in rice fields and they're being given jobs in factories.
They may not have many economic opportunities. So working in a garment factories can be a great choice or a very attractive choice to many people living there.
So how would a factory in America even begin to close that gap? Well, the Trump administration has an idea.
How can we compete with that labor? The answer is robotics are going to do it better and cheaper. And the key to robotics is going to be American AI and American intuition and the American technology.
The idea here being, if you can delegate some of the more mechanical work to robots, like Tesla's Optimus, that could improve efficiency and reduce costs, right? And according to Trump's team, this could also create new, higher-paying jobs for Americans running those robot factories.
You're going to see the greatest surge in training for what we call tradecraft, teaching people how to be robotics mechanics, engineers and electricians for high-tech factories.
Except this, too, has a cost, a big upfront cost, because they're not just talking about moving factories to the United States. They're talking about creating something better and more efficient than what China already has, and doing it from the ground up. That's not easy.
The Chinese government invests significantly in different industries. So when you look at the equipment they have there, which is, the spinning, weaving, bleaching, the cut and sew operation, it's all highly automated. So they have some very efficient processes. They're very good at producing large volumes at low cost.
In fact, in 2015, Nike actually tried to create a highly automated factory in Mexico. The goal being pretty similar, to get robots to put together the tops of its sneakers in 50 to 75 seconds, a job that would normally take a human well over 10 minutes. But less than 3 years later, it all fell apart.
It just didn't work. The cost of automation, they were trying to automate the process, the cost of labor, the learning curve, the productivity levels were not able to justify the costs of producing that shoe versus the price that they could get for it.
And even if you could get a whole slate of brand new US factories filled with robots doing all the work, experts agree they still need the materials to work with.
If I try to keep everything US made, it's almost impossible. At some level, I have to still use the thread. I still have to use the buttons or something that is produced in China.
In order for the United States manufacturing to catch up, we would have to invest in lots and lots of infrastructure in the entire apparel supply chain. In short, it's going to take billions and billions, if not tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars.
They could probably produce apparel in the United States or Canada, but it would be at least probably triple or quadruple the cost of what they can produce in Asia.
And that's where Trump's plan crashes into this wall of reality. Because are you willing to pay $400 for a $100 pair of shoes? Now, let me take one step back, because everyone we spoke to did agree there are some industries where it could make sense for the US to invest in reshoring, building weapons, or making pharmaceuticals, for example. These are very arguably issues of national security. But not every industry is like that. And the example of clothes, a source of major domestic manufacturing loss in the United States.
It is simply not feasible for America to get a lot of these jobs back.
Personally, I do not think this is a reality.
It just doesn't make sense.
The consensus is pretty clear.
Now to a story you'll see here tomorrow night on The National, captured by our CBC News team when they were recently inside Iran. Here's a preview.
I'm Margaret Evans in Tehran, where a startling number of women are daring to defy the religious edicts of Iran's ruling clerics, choosing not to cover their hair as required by law.
People go to jail in this country sometimes, or they get fined. Are you not afraid anymore?
I am afraid, says Saha, but I'm doing this because I don't want a daughter of mine to have the same fear as I do. Memories are fresh. It's been less than 3 years since a brutal crackdown on protests following the death of Mahsa Amini in custody for an alleged dress code violation.
The changes we've been witnessing here really are extraordinary. Whether they're going to last is another question.
Quiet courage. Tomorrow on The National.
This weekend marked 45 years since the deadly Mount St. Helens disaster, and scientists say the volcano will erupt again.
But it's not going to play out the way you might think.
Johanna Wagstaff breaks down what could make the next blast different right after the break. Washington State's Mount St. Helens eruption 45 years ago left a lasting legacy, including changes on how volcanoes are monitored and modeled, key for early detection before an eruption.
Damage and death is difficult to predict, but you can use the form of the volcano to kind of give you some idea.
We know it will erupt again. It's just a matter of when. Johanna Wagstaff breaks down why the next blast will be different and how new tools and techniques could reduce the risk.
This is the side of Mount St. Helens blowing out 45 years ago. And this is where we think the next eruption will happen, which will be in our lifetime, by the way. But it's not going to play out the way you might think. Here's what we know and why we're so confident it will happen. So first of all, the when. Mount St. Helens is an active, explosive, regularly scheduled volcano. It's erupted more than any other in the continental US over the past few centuries. And volcanoes like this tend to blow about once every 30 to 100 years. Yep, we're getting into that window. But here's the thing, these eruptions don't come out of nowhere. Scientists will see it coming.
Kind of highlighted that these things don't necessarily occur out of the blue, because there had been this swarm of earthquakes around the volcano that indicated that molten magma was moving up the throat of the volcano. And the other thing that was kind of ominous was the volcano was swelling. I think, at that point they issued an evacuation.
That was 1980, but Mount St. Helens is still very much alive. Just last June, there was another spike in earthquake activity. Magma started moving again. It didn't reach the surface, but scientists call this a recharging event, a sign that the system is priming itself. So yes, it will erupt again, and yes, we will get warning signs. But here's why the next eruption won't look like 1980. That one didn't blow straight up, it blew sideways. Why? Because the mountain's flank had been weakened by a large body of molten rock inside. Eventually, that slope gave way. A landslide triggered a rapid pressure drop, and the magma exploded out the side in what's called a lateral blast. That sideways eruption is what caught people off guard. Today, that slope is gone. In its place, a deep crater, and that crater acts like a pressure valve. If magma builds up again, it's more likely to vent upward or into the crater instead of pushing through a plugged, unstable slope. But don't get too comfortable. An eruption straight up doesn't necessarily mean it's safer.
Damage and death is difficult to predict, but you can use the form of the volcano to kind of give you some idea. And the earthquakes now can be located so precisely with the seismic monitoring equipment that you can kind of even track how that magma is moving up through the throat in more detail than was possible in 1980.
So 45 years later, we're not only expecting another eruption, we have better tools, better models, and a better sense of timing. But the force of nature, that's still very real.
I remember very vividly, I was assembling a group for a geological field trip, actually. It was in Vancouver. As we were assembling, this was about 8 a.m., there was this huge, what sounded to me like an explosion. There was a sound wave from the eruption as it turned out, from the volcano, and it echoed off the North Shore Mountains. It was it could have been a ship exploding in the harbor, but it was actually the eruption of Mount St. Helens, as a sound wave just jetted through the city. It was totally remarkable.
And to give you a sense of scope here, that eruption echoed along BC's south coast, causing strong shock waves over 1,000 kilometers away, with ash drifting as far as Alberta. Up next, they escaped the farm and hit the highway.
We've been trying to rustle them or wrangle them or direct them into trailers.
The moment a herd of cows caused a traffic jam after the break. Now that's something you don't see every day. A small herd of cattle ended up on a busy highway north of Toronto over the long weekend. The animals caused delays for hours. Authorities were called to the scene to try and herd them to safety. The utter chaos that ensued makes our moment.
We were getting 911 calls, all morning long as they were reporting these cattle. They got into a construction zone in between the lanes, and then they were going northbound. They turned around and go southbound. They were going all over the place, and they were charging officers. They were charging people. They're disoriented. They're scared. They don't know what to do. I think one of the things that I heard is that this cattle got spooked with some thunder and lightning that happened overnight. They got out of their enclosure, whatever that may be, and when they finally got on the highway just around 2 o'clock, that's when we were notified. So it's been a tough day for these cattle. They're exhausted, they're tired. Obviously, it was certainly a very huge distraction for anyone going down the highway. The farmers are here right now. We've been trying to rustle them or wrangle them or direct them into trailers.
Can you get ahead of them? We're going to block this completely.
You can't make this up. And I would have never expected this to happen on the Friday of a long weekend.
You got that right. You cannot make that up. It didn't take long, of course, for the internet to milk this moment. The cow puns online are relentless. I will refrain from using any more, but definitely a wild scene on a highway known for its tremendous traffic, right? Thankfully, everyone, humans and cows, made it out safely. Thank you for being with us. I'm Asha Tomlinson. Take care.